What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Wrestling Heroes and Insiders podcast, aka the Whip Show. And this show right here is really special to me. You know what? Normally I come on here and rant, either myself or Mr. Joe Walker, the word heavyweight champion, or the coach, Chuck Coding in the coach's corner. But today we got to talk about something that's been going on in the world of pro wrestling, the bloodline. Now, I should have worn my bloodline t-shirt today. I should have wore my We the One shirt, but I couldn't do that because, in my opinion, Jimmy has committed treason. But before I get to talking about that, I got a special guest on today. If you guys have ever seen us on Northwest Championship Wrestling, I have my co-commentator, Jordan Scavone. What's going on, man? Welcome for the first time to the Wrestling Heroes and Insiders podcast, aka the Whip Show.
What's going on, Whip? I'm not wearing my sunglasses the whole time. That was just a joke. How's it going?
Okay, we was ready for you, man. We was ready for you, man.
Yeah, we'll put them up here.
Had you on, we commentate for the last, 6 months to a year on NWCW. We never
somewhere around
down
there.
What's going on in this wrestling world. So we got to talk about that. And like I said, there's two things really big I want to talk about today. The bloodline breakdown, and I want to talk about CM Punk and AEW coming back for his re-debut for Collision. But first and foremost, could you kind of give the people a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, hi. My name is Jordan J. Scavone. In the wrestling world, I am currently Jordan Sly Scavone. I am Whip's co-commentator in NWCW. I've commentated and ring announced and actually done ringside managing in a couple different promotions. I'm a published children's book author with 6 children's books. Well, 5 children's books and 1 novel published. I'm an award-winning voice actor, and I'm an early childhood educator, and I'm a dad drinking out of my Christmas mug with my kid on it.
You heard that, man. See, we bring y'all stars on this show from all walks of life. But I don't just have Jordan. And Jordan, thank you for coming on the show today. I got my big homie, man. I've known this man since high school football. He was a year ahead of me, and he let me know that every single day of practice when he was all in my ass. Pause. But I want to bring on my guy. Matter of fact, he's the original Kanye. Not that one you see messing up the name in the world of entertainment. This guy is the Taskmaster Kanye. What's going on, my guy?
What's going on, Whip Dog? The world champ, how you doing?
We're doing good, man. Now, I'm bringing you on this wrestling show today to talk, man, because this show is really because of you. You reached out to me and said, look, I got to talk about what's going on in the bloodline. True or false?
Facts. Anything that goes, when it goes down to wrestling, I got to go talk to the world champ. Talk to him about what's going on, man. You are the subject matter expert, and we just got a lot to say, man. So I'm just glad to be on the show, man.
Thank you very much. And Jordan, it's funny, Kanye was saying one time that he don't have a lot of homeboys that talk about wrestling that's our age. So this is a good experience for him to get it out, man.
I mean, I don't really either, aside from people like in the business. My wife watches, with me, but really she just watches pay-per-views. And mostly does it for a social thing. But she follows, she's got her favorites.
Seriously. Well, guys, like I said, I want to touch on the AEW CM Punk re-debut a little later, but I want to start off right here because it is Monday night, and normally Monday Night Raw comes on. But let's talk about the bloodline. Now, as we know, people have been saying this might be one of the best storylines in the history of pro wrestling, not just this year. Listen. 3 years now, people are still on edge. We've seen the breakdown. We've seen Roman go from the big dog and the Shield to being probably the godfather of pro wrestling right now. as Roman Reigns. We've seen him go through Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania when pretty much everybody thought Cody was going to win at Mania. Let's start there. Jordan, were you on the bandwagon for Cody to beat Roman at WrestleMania? And when he didn't, how did you feel?
I was on Cody's side. I had my American Nightmare sleeveless hoodie that they put out. But at the end of the day, I wasn't that upset that he lost. I really did think they were, at one point, it crossed my mind. I was like, Roman's so close to 1,000 days. They're going to want him to hit that 1,000 days for the name recognition. And honestly, like, having Cody not win then, I don't think hurt him that much, especially entering into the Brock Lesnar feud that he's currently in. But I think having Cody lose, and then if they wanted to follow up and have Cody win at some point down the line, that's always an option. But at this point, I don't even think Cody should beat Roman.
Now, what about you, Ye? What did you think, man? Were you on the side of Cody beating Roman? And when he didn't, how did you feel?
First of all, just watching, I was glad to see Cody back in the WWE. I mean, let's just state that right there, man. Then for him, the Hell in a Cell match with the Seth Rollins and him with the torn pec, I was like, yeah, man, that was one of the most phenomenal matches I ever seen. Just seeing that, but I really didn't think that Cody really deserved to win at that time, man. I really wanted Roman to hit that 1,000-day mark. And possibly, for those who don't know, Brandy Rose is from the Metro Detroit area. I don't know if you know that or not. She's from Inkster. So I would be cool if Cody was the winner here. But I don't know if they got enough time to get that timeline going. I mean, you're talking a good 8 weeks, less than 8 weeks to get that storyline going. I don't think that's going to happen, man. I don't know who Cody's going to be going against. And I think that they lost the opportunity to give him the strap, but at the same time, hey, maybe next year it might be an opportunity,
So with that being said, if you guys listen to Busted Open Radio, shout out to Dave LaGreca and the team over there. Dave has been adamant from day one. It has hurt him. He's ready to blow a gasket because Cody didn't win. He thinks they won't be able to even get that energy back again ever. But with that being said, we do still have Roman as the champion. We know that the Usos lost the belts at WrestleMania. Now the storyline has progressed to Jimmy super kicking Roman at the last pay-per-view. And now we got a whole new story. Now, right there, Kanye, I want you to start here. You knew, obviously, Roman was going to have a problem with the Usos losing the tag titles. But did you think this quickly Jimmy will be kicking him in his damn head?
I mean, you can see it building up, right, for weeks. The way that Roman was giving, Jimmy and Jay just bad mouthing them, really just the underlying disrespect that he was giving those two guys. You have to realize, people fail to realize the Usos were damn near Hall of Famers before Roman even got the strap, right? So you're talking, 10-time tag team champions? I'm just going to get the data right now, but yeah, man, they were Hall of Famers before Roman got the strap. So for Roman, and then they helped Roman all of these 1,000 days, right? So I personally, I loved it. I loved every part of it. I thought it was great. I was jumping in my chair. I loved it. I wish Jay would have kicked him too.
Man. I'm glad you said Jay and talked about that. And Jordan, I want to touch on this with you. There was a time when they were tag team, and obviously they're twins, that we didn't know who was who. We thought Jimmy and Jay was Jimmy. The ability, and John Cena talked about this on Busted Open, the way this storyline has really defined each character is amazing. I want you to talk about that a little bit, Jordan.
Yeah, legitimately. Like, this is one of those moments where I wish, and maybe one day it'll happen when Vince is really gone, that they would acknowledge that it's scripted so that Emmy nominations could be a thing. And I know that part of the reason they don't is because they want to have that sports visage. But honestly, like, the way the character development has been with Roman, with Jay, with Jimmy, with Solo, with Sammy, and I mean, of course, Paul. But those 5 mostly, I mean, is no short of better than you would get on a feature-length, hour-long TV show that ran weekly. I mean, the work that these guys are putting in, and I know Paul's involved with the creative, and I don't know who's, the main writer behind it backstage, but honestly, everyone involved in that storyline deserves so many flowers. Just it's so compelling TV. Like, I have people who haven't watched wrestling in years who are messaging me and like, dude, I watched the last episode of the Broman stuff. It's so good. I'm back to watching wrestling. Like, and they're just watching it for that because it's so good. And I wish that they could get legitimate awards from like big things like, that are recognized outside of like if it doesn't take Wrestling Observer storyline or something like that's. Yeah. I mean, that's already rigged, but that's a different story.
Now, I'm glad you said that, because another thing I want to talk about was there's so many fans out there, and I don't like using the term marks, but let's be honest, they're marks. They really don't know, and I want either one of y'all to jump in on this. When do you see these guys go online and say, oh my God, I hate Roman, he needs to lose the title, I'm not going to watch WWE anymore until Roman loses the title? What do you guys think about that? And either one of y'all can jump in on that.
Hey, guess what? We ain't gonna think about those guys, man. Roman is by far. I'm looking at it right now. He's now, for him to beat Hogan, he got to hold it for another another year and a half almost. But yeah, man, this is some great television right now, and really, unfortunately, this is the best thing going with WWE. It's a gift and a curse to me, because I only watch right now to see Roman Reigns. I only watch to, I don't watch Raw because the Usos are not on there, right? I watch SmackDown because Roman's on there and the Usos are on there, and then them going back and forth with Kevin Owens and Sammy. So I mean, they gotta, hey, while the strike while the iron's hot. Hey, if you're not going to watch because Roman's on there, well, hey, you're missing out on some good TV, man.
Go ahead, Jordan. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say Roman's needle mover shirt is a genuine thing. Like, he is a draw and honest, and I think SmackDown numbers are consistently. Oh, my phone fell. I think SmackDown numbers are better than Raw numbers. I might be incorrect. I don't look at the breakdown too much, but I know the last time I did, they were. But I know their YouTube numbers are at least higher for Roman segments, and I think it really does say a lot, like how many relapsed fans he's bringing back to the table, so to speak.
And it's crazy because like you said, I never thought in my life there would be a time that when Raw was coming to town, I was like, I don't know if I'll go to that. But then with SmackDown, let me think about it. Is Roman going to be there? I'm there. You know what I'm saying? Because I went to SmackDown in Grand Rapids back when the Usos first unified the tag titles. And that was my big thing about going. If Roman was going to be there, I was willing to go 150 miles away from home to see Roman live. He only did one segment. He came out, ran his mouth for a second, and threw it up. And that was enough for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right now, Raw really, for me, okay, you got you got Damian Priest, that Judgment Day thing going on right now, which is, we'll see how that go. Hopefully they'll get into a program with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. But Gunther, him being on there, they had to put him on there because when he was on, now Gunther, people believe it or not, man, that guy, man, is must-see TV too. So he's getting 100%. There, but other than those really two groups, the women's division is not really that great. People, I don't know what to deal with people not being a big fan of Bianca Belair. People are happy that she lost the belt. She was the Raw Women's Champion. It's Raw is just not exciting to me. The tag team division doesn't even exist. Other than the Usos, Judgment Day, KO and Sammy. So my thing is, I'm not really excited when Raw comes on TV. I'll check, see what was good. I mean, even when Cody was on there, it's kind of like, Cody versus Brock. I'm not trying to see that. It's just.
Yeah. Now I want to go back to Jimmy and what he did, man. Now, do you really think? Because obviously we know when the storyline started, it started with Roman and Jay. Do you think Jimmy?
And Jimmy was hurt, right? Jimmy had the knee injury. He was coming off the knee injury really during the pandemic, right? He got hurt. He got hurt in a. Did he get hurt in a tag team ladder match?
I think so.
I don't remember what match. Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, it was a ladder match. He got hurt and messed his knee up.
That sounds right.
Now, right now, where do you think they're going to go next? There has been, obviously, we saw Solo choose a side. He chose his cousin over his brothers. Now,
I got thoughts on that too, by the way.
Go right ahead, jump in.
I've been thinking about it a lot. Ever since that you asked if we wanted to do this, I've been like constantly thinking about where the story's going, what the subtext might be, and things like that. And I was thinking a lot about like the Samoan dynasty that it's involved with and the way that things have been specifically talked about. And Solo was sent to Clash at the Castle to ensure Roman won, but not by Roman and not by Paul, by the Samoan elders. So your Alpha, your Sika, and whatnot. So honestly, I think as much as Solo loves his brothers, which he does, like that's super obvious. You could see it when especially on Friday when Jimmy was promoing, Solo actually looked conflicted and everything. But he's under orders, not from Roman, he's under orders from the elders.
Yeah.
He's under orders from the big bosses of the table. And I think Roman knows it. And that's why, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago when Roman accidentally bumped into Solo and shoulder bumped him, and you saw that like split second of fear in Roman's face. And that's that's what I'm talking about with the performances where they're so good. Like other people wouldn't do that. They would bump and it would make it over the top. Oh, I didn't mean to bump you, Solo. Oh, no. But he bumped him and it was just a quick like, oh shit. And then
Yeah. And I like what you just said too. A lot of people didn't notice that. One of the biggest knocks they had for WWE for years, they assumed that the fans forget everything. But that was something small that was part of the beginning of the feud that connected all the way through. That's good long-term storytelling.
And even in NXT, Solo's whole thing was that his brothers, went without him. They left him in Samoa to street fight on his own while they were winning 1,000+ day total tag team runs and stuff like that.
See, I didn't even know that because I didn't watch a whole lot of NXT, but that makes sense.
I watched all the Solo stuff.
Storyline that they told because he was a street fighter from Samoa, and so that was his thing. I mean, you see his whole when he came in, he's wrapping his feet, and he looked like a straight street fighter with the gloves, kind of like our guy from Bloodsport,
Yeah.
So he was a savage. He was an animal even in NXT.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he had less Umaga in him. I feel like as soon as he went to the main roster, he got a little bit more Umaga. But no, he was still, he was always rough. He was always that Street Fighter energy.
But the thing about it is that I don't, was Sola, I'm looking it up. Did he ever get the NXT title? I know he was the.
No, he won the North American title.
They never gave him the strap. They never gave it to him. They moved him up. I guess they moved him up so quickly.
Yeah, I think he got moved up quicker than the initial plan was. And there's a fourth brother floating around out there who wrestles on the indies.
That's the Fatu brother that's in MLW?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you, again, connecting the storylines, even that gentleman that you're talking about, he tweets about the bloodline all the time. Yeah. Even though he's in MLW. He literally tweets about him all the time.
Yeah, that's Jacob Fatu.
Yes, Jacob Fatu, man.
I couldn't remember his name.
And shoot, and the thing about it, let's looking at the Anoa family tree. He's one of the first cousins, but man, if they was to get him, I don't know. I've seen him wrestle. That guy he is something else. And so we'll see if they decide to bring him on, man. I would love to see that.
Now, the rumor right now for SummerSlam is the Usos versus Roman and Solo. Obviously, we know things can change by the time SummerSlam comes. Now, we know there's two things about that, though. If that happens, Fans are going to be crying about why isn't Roman defending the title at SummerSlam. But storyline-wise, it makes perfect sense. What do you guys think about that possibility of them having that match?
Yeah, you know what? I think that really what they're going to do, they're going to have Roman break Bruno Sammartino record, and then they're going to leave it at that, right? Because they're not going to let him break Hogan's record. That's I'm just looking at the number right now. It's 1474, right? Bob Backlund is 2135. That's just like
Bruno's other record because
Bruno other record. Bruno got
okay.
two records, so they're going to let him break. They're going to let him be the number 4. They're going to let him
which
break
one which one is that?
That's the WWF championship.
No, how many days is that? 12 something?
That's 1237. And then Bruno got the 2800. Yeah, the 2800 is they're not going to let that get, and they're not going to let the Bob Backlund, and then the Hulk Hogan is 1400. They're not going to let that, but he's going to be number 4. They're gonna move him to number 4 just because they can move him to number 4, and then Bruno still be number 1 though.
Mm-hmm.
So they were talking.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't mind the idea of the tag match. It's not how I'd book it because I do think he should defend on the Big 4 pay-per-view. I think SummerSlam's too big of a show. Even with the World Heavyweight title, I think it's too big of a show to not have the belt on.
So if I was just doing the math, right? I just did some quick numbers online. So
yeah,
if he goes for Bruno Sammartino's 1200 record, it'll put him around January 20th, 28th, which is around Royal Rumble time.
Rumble. Yeah, I could easily see him holding it till then. I don't think he should lose it at SummerSlam.
No,
but I think if I was booking, I'd have him do something at SummerSlam. I don't know what, even if it was like you take your Money in the Bank winner and you have them be like, I'm challenging you at SummerSlam. Yeah, that's my pick for Money in the Bank, by the way.
Yes.
LA, I like
that. LA Night, man. Must see TV, man.
And then have Solo do a handicap match against the Usos. That's how I'd run it.
No, Solo's not. He's not a savage like that to go handicap against him too.
If he does a handicap, how do you book the finish then?
I'll tell you how. You book it with Jay not wanting to hit him. You book it with Jimmy doing most of the offense because Jimmy's the one who's been fighting. Jay doesn't want to hit his brother, and Jay's conflicted on if he's going to hit him or not. And either you have finally Jay at the very end step up and take out Solo like from behind or something, or you just have Jay not do it and let Jimmy get beat down and then have that finally have it go to a DQ, have Solo beat Jimmy to the point that it goes to a DQ, and then finally Jay gets involved.
Yeah, wow.
That's something to think about. But I want to, since we kind of touched on when and if Roman will get beat, they were talking about today on Busted Open as well. Do you think the person that will even beat Roman is in WWE right now? And if so,
I think Solo's going to beat him.
Solo. So before
I honestly think Solo's going to beat him for the strap.
What I actually thought about when you said that, when they first announced the World Heavyweight Championship tournament, I actually was hoping that Solo would have won the World Heavyweight Championship tournament. Now, the Bloodline would have been in charge of wrestling still, but now Roman's could have been messing with Solo like, yeah, you're the champ, but you're not the champ. You know what I mean? There was so much you could have built off of that. So I was a little upset they didn't even put him in the tournament, but expound a little bit more why do you think Solo was the guy and not Jimmy or Jay or Cody or whoever else?
I just think there's going to be a turn, man. And either Solo's going to cost him the belt or Solo's going to beat him for the belt. I think that maybe it'd be an opportunity for, I just think that Solo's going to be a key component to him losing his belt, either by being the victor or by causing him to be to lose. And I think that it's going to be Solo and Paul Heyman riding off in this, Paul Heyman managing Solo and leaving Roman on the island of relevancy by himself.
It's not a bad shout. I definitely think that Solo will be involved in some way, shape, or form. And I don't know if necessarily he'll be the one to beat him. I don't know if Solo's ready, and I don't know if the emotion would be there. Because especially if he's still going to hang out with Heyman, that means he's still going to be heel. So I think having a heel beat Roman isn't going to be very satisfying. And I don't see Solo going face anytime soon. Even if he allies himself with his brothers, he'll still be more of a tweener, in my opinion. I think storyline wise, Jay is the right answer. I think he's always been the right answer, and he's the reason it all started. And then, Jimmy came in after, quitting for his brother and that sort of stuff. And now Jimmy is the one trying to like get Jay to be like, no, man, he's doing this to us. He's doing this to us. So I think we're going to get Roman versus Jay for the belt. And probably, I think we'll get it twice. I think we'll get it the first time in just a singles match, and it'll break down and cause a DQ, no finish, whatever. And then the second one will be a cage or a Hell in a Cell or something where Solo and Jimmy can't get involved, or Solo and Jay can't get involved, and Jimmy will like pass out in the guillotine or get busted, get utterly wrecked. And finally, Jay will step up and realize that it's him who's the one who's like, it was never Jimmy, it was him who has to do it, who has to stop his cousin, and then finally Jay will do it.
How about this one? What if Solo hits Roman and then Cody pins Roman for the champ? Just flip it around, right?
I think Roman has to lose clean to make it matter. Just like how if Brock would have beat Taker in the streak, if he would have low blowed him first or something, it wouldn't have had as much weight.
Oh, you saying it needs to be a clean win in order for Roman for someone of him to drop the belt on a clean win,
for it to help the other person to be elevated to another level.
Because if Roman loses now, he's not going to lose anything. I mean, he'll lose the belt, and he'll lose the not being pinned for 3 years by Baron Corbin or whatever. But it's not going to hurt his standing in any way, shape, or form. However, if they're doing a match and Roman gets hit in the groin and then cracked with a chair and then crossroads and pinned, like, oh, Cody, you won, kinda. Like,
and you're right, because if you go back, and you guys are both wrestling historians as well, remember when Sting beat Hogan at that Starrcade after all that build up, and it was that funny pin? Sting never got the heat that he really should have got because he didn't whoop Hogan clean. You know what I'm saying?
It's just like when Goldberg lost.
Yeah.
With the cattle prod, like no.
Yeah, what was it? Yeah, did he spear Bret Hart? What was one? I can't remember.
Oh yeah, that happened too. But
that was the second one. But the first one he got
Hall stuck him with the cattle prod, and did Nash even jackknife him, or did he
then Nash power bottom and pinned him.
Okay. Yeah, Nash would have to get the jackknife in at least. But
well, guys, I do want to go into AEW, but before we do that, I want to put a last stamp on the Roman Reigns thing right here. I want your call. Just make it a 30-second call. Who's officially, I want both of your call, who's beating Roman and when? Jordan, you start.
Jay, WrestleMania, last man standing match.
The next year's WrestleMania.
Yeah, this upcoming one in April.
Okay. Yay?
I think Royal Rumble. I think it'll be Royal Rumble. He'll lose, and then Jey Uso or Jimmy Uso, one of those two. I think that would be really good. I really think me personally, I would like Jay to win, to bring it full circle, and for him to drop the belt to Jay. I think the Royal Rumble. I like the last man standing, man, because that's when is Hell in a Cell? Isn't that like a springtime event? Or that could be.
They don't do it as a pay-per-view. They don't do it as a pay-per-view anymore.
So I really think that if they do it back in Hell in a Cell when it all started.
They could run it
battle
back,
for
back in Hell in a Cell.
Not only you the champ, but you the tribal chief now.
Well, that reminds me. One more question from there for what you just said. Because obviously you guys saying it's going to pretty much be a bloodline person that wins it. And they be quote unquote maybe become the tribal chief. After Roman loses, Does that end the Bloodline storyline, or does it have even more legs from there?
I think Hollywood is calling, man. Roman is must-see TV, man.
So you think he's out of here?
I think, man, one of
You
these
say he
Marvel
fought on his
movies come
cousin,
back
right?
up. Hey, man,
Well,
I can see him
kinda
being a
cousin.
new Aquaman, a new something, man. This dude is must-see TV, man. The ladies go crazy when they see him. Roman come out, man. I see money flowing from the sky, man. And so,
what about you, Jordan? Does that end the Bloodline storyline to you?
I don't think the bloodline will ever properly end. I think as long as there's a member of the NOI family within professional wrestling, specifically WWE, it's going to be there. And I don't think it'll ever be to this extent where it had like a full stable of multiple members of this caliber. But I don't think it'll ever go away. I think at some point, when Ava the Pebble is up on the main roster, they'll talk about it again. She's the youngest member of the bloodline actively compete. I think the NOI bloodline as a concept and as a title will always be in a thing.
For sure. Well, guys, I do want to shift gears a little bit to AEW Collision and the re-debut. Oh, what's up? Yeah, you got one more thing?
You're muted.
Oh, your volume went out.
oh yeah, my bad,
There you
fellas.
go.
It just came out today. A lot of rumors is coming out, but looking like Roman Reigns might be in that Hobbs and Shaw movie coming out, and that'll be the tie to that Fast and Furious 9 that he was in. And
You see what he's trying to do, Jordan? He's trying to back up his Hollywood claims.
He was already in Hobbs and Shaw.
right, but the Hobbs and Shaw, another one's coming out next year.
Oh, they're doing a sequel. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
because
He definitely gotta get a bigger role,
it's
'cause
going to
they
be a
kinda
whole
played it the
Hobbs and
first-
Shaw series, because The Rock said basically he's not doing any more Fast and Furious as long as Vin Diesel is there. And then that beef is real. So
yeah, that beef is very
and then he got into it with
lame.
my man, what's the guy, Aquaman, what's the character that played, what's his name?
Jason Momoa.
He done, Vin Range done got, not Vin Range, but Vin Diesel done got into it with him as well. So it's kind of like, The Rock's not doing it anymore, and they're gonna push that Hobbs and Shaw because that's,
That's the franchise after Fast and Furious. Okay.
yeah, they're gonna push that in that little series, and so Roman's gonna be a part of that.
Look at him trying to get some research to make us believe his story. I get it.
Right.
But guys, like I said, I want to jump into the AEW Collision, the new show by Tony Khan's All Elite Pro Wrestling. And we know CM Punk has been announced to one of his major announcements will be re-debuting. Now, we all know the story about CM Punk and the media scrum and the backstage fight and being kicked out of AEW. Now, they're trying to rewrite history. They're trying to say he never actually got kicked out of AEW. He was injured. That was the only reason he wasn't there. I'm going to tell you that's a cap. That's lying. We know what really happened. But, I mean, if it sounds good for the story. But him coming back into the locker room, we know a lot of guys are upset. Chris Jericho has made it very clear he is not a fan. Multiple people have made it clear that they are not a fan. However, and Jordan, we can attest to this. We are both in the indie business right now. Wrestling is a business.
Mm-hmm.
Dollars have to outshine egos. Do you think with him coming back, first and foremost, and Jordan, I'd like you to answer this first, how much of a ratings impact will this make and a financial impact for AEW? Now, I was just at AEW in Detroit, and I sent you a picture of the building. It was only about 65% filled here in Detroit.
Yeah.
I told you that. I think they're so worried about Wembley, they're not worried about everything else. But with that being said, what type of financial impact and ratings impact and the locker room impact do you think it'll make when CM Punk comes back?
It's really hard to say, honestly. His initial return was really hyped. I watched it live. I'll openly say CM Punk at a time was my favorite wrestler, working. When I was younger, when did he debut in ECW? 05 ECW. 05, 04, something around there. So like I was still in high school when that came out, you know, and I saw this dude. He's like, you know, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs. And I'm like, dude, that's me. Like I could be this guy. Like, you know, he was skinny fat, I was skinny fat, now I'm just fat.
Shut up, man.
But I really connected with him at that point. And I fell in love with him and his style. And then, you know, he finally got up to the main roster, and I loved the straight edge society gimmick. To this day, it's still one of my favorite gimmicks. That when he's singing "Happy Birthday" to Rey Mysterio's daughter, oh, it's such peak bad guy. Like it's amazing. And then, you know, he left, and I get why he left. And then he did all this stuff, and I lost a lot of like personal like respect and contempt for him. For the reason, like, yeah, leave because all this stuff's happening. But then he just went on that like bashing tour. And then he came back to AEW, and I was really excited, and I was watching him, and I'm like, yeah, you're still good. But like his ratings quickly fell off, like even on YouTube. Like you start as soon they started falling. He got that first injury, and then he came back to fight Mox and had that weird squash match, which I actually called.
He was hurt though.
Yeah.
He was hurt. You could tell he was hurting the whole match. They had to, you know.
But we were watching it, and I was like, wouldn't it be funny if Mox just squashed him and then it happened? There's a lot of money on the table to run Punk and FTR against the Elite, but they literally made a whole new show for the guy to not be on the same show with the Elite. So I don't even know if we're going to actually get that match. And at that point, why even bring, like, aside from the initial bump, and you're going to get a merch bump because you're going to get some new merch. You're going to get Collision's debut bump, which they're going to want on paper for when they're renegotiating and everything.
Yeah.
But I don't see it as a long-term thing. And even when Tony made the announcement, the audience was booing.
Yes, they were.
And I think that was really telling that the audience who, you know, I'm not an AEW guy. There's people in AEW I love that I will turn on for, and I will watch them specifically. And if I hear like a match is really good, you know, I'll go check it out. I don't watch it week to week. I watch highlights, and I pay attention to what's going on so that I can have conversations like this.
Yeah.
It's going to be a rating bump. Yes. It's going to be a merch bump. Yeah. Punk will always sell merch regardless of what he's doing. Is it going to be long-term? Is he going to carry the brand? I don't know. I don't think so. I think the booing from the audience at the announcement and like the previous, you know, ratings drop with him in segments stands. And they already like basically sold Wembley, so I don't think it's that even.
Yeah.
I think Wembley's going to sell regardless, just because Europe is starved for live content that's not indie feds.
Okay. What about you, Kanye? What do you think about his impact, the ratings, financial? What do you think? What is the reason that Tony Khan is even going to deal with this man again?
Okay, so, you know, the summer months is not a lot. NBA basketball is going to be over.
Kanye, hold on. Before you answer, I want to say something real quick. You remember the media scrum, right?
Yes.
Now, let's go back. So we know how he was talking in the media scrum, but let's go back 20-something years to high school football. Kanye, you were the captain, correct?
Yes.
You also coached football.
Yes.
What would you have done if one of your underclassmen was standing in front of Coach Wiltshire or whatever, the way he was talking? What would you have done to us?
Oh, yeah, we have to have a conversation about that, right? Because that's not how, first of all, Tony, I was a little disappointed at Tony, right? Because Tony had this goofy, like, fanboy look when he was just going off. He was just looking at him like, you know, he almost should have been like, hey, you know, shut him off, right?
Cut the right.
I mean, at the end of the day,
Tony,
that's the reason why, you know, a lot of times people think Tony's a mark for real.
Yeah.
Man. I
Tony
don't know if all of that was a work somewhat. Tony allowed it to happen, right? So it's kind of like in coaching, right? You coach you allow bad behavior, either you coach it or you allow it, right? And he allowed it to happen, right? And so he can't get upset when you allow your employees to just go off. And that's why he had to shut down MJF. When MJF went off in June last year, right? He had to shut him down because not only was, he had people from Discovery in the doggone in the suite watching it down in LA, and also, hey man, MJF just went off script, right? He was getting he was having feeling himself, and he was saying a little bit too much. And I think that as an employer, not fast forward now, you can't have your employees just like saying whatever to you and doing whatever. And there got to be some decorum and order, man. And the issue. Okay, they could have got beyond what was said during the scrum. The fight after the fact was the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Because you can't do that. You can't have that's considered workplace violence, man. And they were fighting for real, right? It wasn't like a work or whatever. The some of it probably a work, and then it went too far. It probably put some personal things in it because he probably felt this way. The adrenaline was high, this, that, and the other. But what broke the camel back was the fight. And I think that you can't, from a professionalism point of view, you can't be fighting in the back room. You can't do that. It's a hostile, that creates hostile work environments, right?
Oh, yeah. But Jordan, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, I respect Tony, look at everything that he's done, and yeah, he had help from the Elite. He had help from Cody, he's had help from his dad's money. And whatnot, but the guy's living the dream that literally every wrestling fan has wanted to do. They wanted to run their own promotion, with people that they like. That's why he brought in everyone that he did. Tony brings in people he likes. Tony brings in people that he is a fan of, and we all would do it given the opportunity. But it's been said a lot. He does have an issue with not treating them like employees. He's still a fan, and that's part of the problem. And I was going to say, Tony looks at Punk, and he looks at Brian, and he looks at Jericho and stuff, the legends, as it were. He looks at them like Paul Heyman looks at Roman and Brock in gimmick.
Yeah.
But Tony doesn't shoot.
I agree with that. That's the unfortunate thing, man. And I said this a long time ago, that when it was all good when they were just friends. I mean, when he was just starting, everything was going good with the company. But I said, just like anything else, 3 years from now, when guys don't want to work with this person or guys don't want to do the job, how is he going to handle the business side of that, keeping these guys in order? Jordan, we're both in independent wrestling. And one thing that happens is this. A good worker will always work a promoter. And they have been doing that to that man from day one. Kanye, you talked about it yourself. There is no way that MJF should say the things that he says publicly about WWE, the 2020, the 2024 contract. Oh, God, look, listen. Because there's no gain for AEW. The one thing that you always do, even in the work shoot from it, what does AEW gain from MJF talking about the contract of 2024? What do AEW gain from that?
No, it's a lot going on, and I think that again, you allow either you coach it or you allow it, right? And I think that Tony allows it, right? And he has I wouldn't say the inmates running an asylum, but at a point in time, he did, man. And somebody, Tony's a great businessman. I mean, hell, he's multi-million-dollar companies in multiple areas, right? So Tony knows what he's doing. So I was a little disappointed that he's kind of allowing that, because Vince wouldn't, people talk about the pipe bomb, right, with CM Punk, but believe if Vince didn't want all that stuff, he would have shut his mic off, right?
Oh yeah.
So at some point he ended up going too far and he shut his mic off, right? So Tony got to, sometimes it's good business sense, man. It's a learning experience, and I hope that the leaders in the locker room can kind of move on because it's great to have something other than WWE on, right?
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Yeah, because I'm not watching. I mean, I'm not a big fan of NXT. Just after they changed the colors and went, I want gold and black NXT. I want Adam Cole and
Enzo
I want Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly in NXT, right? The undisputed era in NXT, and all those guys left. It's kind of like they never really can recover from that, right? And Tony Khan is kind of giving us a little bit of that, right? Mix it up with sports entertainment. Some of the, for me, if we're gonna, are we sticking on MJF? We can kind of go into the mother, not MJF, but CM Punk. I think that with AEW, there's too many factions for me, man. There's like, different pieces of things over here. So there's so many factions.
Yeah.
Now that's a couple of things that I don't like about it, but
there's so many factions that break up and reform as different factions with half the same people.
How many has Jericho had so far?
I'm glad Collision is coming back on television because now I can see you talking superstars like Miro coming back, more Samoa Joe. I saw that on the video the other day. They had an advertisement. Scorpio Sky is coming back. You talking Andrade. I mean, Andrade was must see TV, right? And I'm just reading right now. Samoa Joe versus Punk. Oh my goodness, that would be something special. Just them two on the mic going ham on each other. Oh my goodness. So I'm looking forward to Collision being more so of a maybe it'll be AEW, but I think Collision might be a little bit more hardcore. It would be like how Raw is the difference between Raw and SmackDown. I think that's what they're going to try to do.
I think if anything, they should go less flippy high spots with Collision.
Yeah.
Because
no Young Bucks, huh?
I don't want to see 17 pile drivers in 4 matches. Whenever I think about it, some people like it, and I like it sometimes, but I think about Dante Martin taking that Canadian Destroyer off a ladder through 3 tables, and I don't even know what Sid Vicious's ankle, and
that's right. Spot, yeah, Dante Martin's going to be out for a while, right?
Yeah, for a spot that wasn't even the finish. And now this young kid whose whole thing was using the ropes in such a unique way, he might not be able to do it anymore.
Listen, I don't know if you saw Chris Van. It was another show. I hate to
Chris Van Vliet.
Yeah, and they had Will Ospreay on there, and he was talking about how he's getting older and he's not going to be able to do all of those moves. When I first saw AEW and I saw Sammy Guevara do the move off of Matt Hardy and split Matt Hardy's head open.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah,
I'm like, man,
And then the match kept going. I know, that match should have been stopped right there.
Yeah, it's just like the Lucha Brothers, Young Bucks. I mean, even the Young Bucks, you can see them starting to break down now, man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one of them was hurt here recently.
Yeah, I think it was Matt.
Yeah, he got a torn bicep or something. He wearing the arm braces. So, man, my thing is, hey, Tony gotta protect his assets, right? And doing all of those just like you said, Dante Martin getting hurt. That's a young talent, man.
He's one of my he was one of those guys that, Dante's having a match, I'm gonna watch that match on AEW. I love the way he would use the rope, he would hit that bottom rope just so subtly, just to get a little extra boost to do an arm drag or something. It was so simple, but it was so fluid.
Now, fellas, I want to ask you this before we get out of here. So going back to CM Punk real quick, you talked about the Elite, and we know that could be money, but like I said, they're probably going to be on separate shows. But if you're the Elite, if you're Kenny Omega, could you? And I'm saying if you were the character. Could you forget about what happened and have a match, have a storyline to make that money, or would it be too hard for you to get over what happened in the back of that fight? Either one of y'all can answer.
I think that FTR are going to drop the belts. they're gonna drop the world because they're the world champs right now, right? So they're gonna end up dropping those.
They're Ring of Honor.
Are they the Ring of Honor champs? No,
They aren't the AEW champs. No, it is a one from.
Yeah.
You're right.
So I think they're gonna drop the belts, and then they're gonna go after the trios, and then you have to realize that Kenny Omega and the Bucks lost. They had to give up their trio championship. It'll be FTR with Punk versus the Elite. That's
so
going to
be.
It
can't happen. You think they will do it?
It can't happen. I think it's going to be for the trios championship.
What about you, Jordan? Do you think, because the one thing I think we feel, yes, there's money involved, but we know when we have a wrestling match, you have to trust your opponent. Jordan, do you think they can go in there and make that money and trust their opponents?
I want to say yes, because they are all professionals, and I don't want to believe that any of them would deliberately do anything, to screw or to hurt each other, because that would just be one. It would look horrible on the company. It would look horrible on wrestling. It would look horrible on them. All aspects of it.
Well, no, I'm not actually saying go in there and try to hurt the other person. I'm saying, I don't want to work with them.
Yeah, well,
I don't even want to have
like you were just talking about trust, and I'm thinking these are guys who are going to do. These are guys who are going to do topes over the top to each other.
Yeah.
And if you really disdain this guy, maybe I'm not going to catch you like I'm supposed to. Right. I would hate to think that any of them would think that. If it was me, if I was Kenny Omega, I mean, that's, in my opinion, that's retire money, that match.
Yeah.
Like that, built properly, worked properly, sold properly. Like that's a show. What's their biggest show? All In, All Out.
All In. One of those two. Yeah.
That's a main event of your biggest show, overshadowing your world heavyweight title. That really can move, all the merch, all the numbers, all the pay-per-view buys, if built properly, if done properly. I think it should be done. Do I think it'll be done? I don't know. I think there's a 50-50 chance it'll happen. It should happen.
Yeah, for sure.
For story. If you're going to bring Punk back, I don't really know why else you would, other than to say I have CM Punk on my show.
Does Punk come back as a heel or a good guy?
Not in Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago, he's a face. Even though it would be amazing if at the end of the show he did turn heel. But I think in Chicago, you're right, he's going to stay face.
But you realize though, Austin was, people think that Austin was a heel and people loved him as a heel, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't even know how you would turn Punk heel at this point. There's not a bit make him beat up Hangman. He's already fought Hangman. Like I don't think there's a big enough baby face in AEW for him to properly turn on. Like he couldn't do it to Kenny because we already know he doesn't like Kenny in real life. Like that's not a. And I mean, Brian's kind of a tweener heel. I guess he could beat up Mox, but like we know he doesn't care for.
But kind of the BCC is kind of tweeners now too, though.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah,
storyline wise,
what is Claudio going to do with that Ring of Honor belt? Though?
You know what? I want you to hold that thought because we're going to have to do. We got so much more to talk about AEW. We're going to hold that for another show, okay? So remember what you just said. So because we got to get out of here, I want to make sure we stay tight here. So Jordan. Let the people know one more time they can get a hold of you and everything before we get out of here.
I'm super easy to find. My website is jordanjscavone.com. You can also just Google me and all my books and stuff will come up. Also, this awesome background behind me is do cartooning as well. So I drew a little Roman Reigns cartoon. He's super cute. I'm super easy to get a hold of. Just search my name and you'll find me. Make sure you put my name on things so people know how to spell it.
I definitely will, brother. I definitely will. Yay. Well, let them know how to get a hold of you, my guy.
Find me at Coach Kanye G at Instagram.com. And Yeah, not hard to find. I'm a wrestling fan, man. I'm a fan of you first, man. You're still the world champ to me, man. So, I appreciate you letting me jump on the show. Hey, I love wrestling. I love all the things about wrestling.
He's also a personal coach for football. He don't want to tell y'all that. But if you got some kids out there that need some training, Kanye got you, man. Trust. Well, like I said, guys, thank y'all for both coming on. Keep watching Raw. Keep watching the Bloodline. Make sure you watch the AEW debut. Keep listening to the Whip Show podcast on all your podcast platforms, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, get your Flintstones phone, whatever you got. Listen to the podcast. You can also watch it on YouTube and on Facebook. And don't get it twisted. We're going to come back with part 2 because I think it's a lot more AEW stuff that we really got to touch on. So we'll have a part 2 very soon, y'all. So for Whip, Jordan, and Kanye, we'll see you next time on the Wrestling Heroes and Insiders podcast, a.k.a. The Whip Show. Take care, guys.